when you go out there and you start looking for a job, there's going to be no one who can compete with you. They don't have your mindset. They don't know what it's like to be a wrestler, the star, and basically go against a guy that's supposed to be better than you and you end up beating them. Most people, they end up giving up. So what we do, we push beyond the barrier. And that's what life is. Reach your potential as a human being. And you're going to take that mindset to business and whatever else you do, and you're going to promote the sport, because at the end of the day, people are going to hear that, wow, man, that guy used to be a wrestler.
Hey guys, this and every episode is sponsored by Spartan Combat. They're our title sponsor, and we're working on a really cool project together. I'm going behind the scenes with Kyle Dake, Yanni, Vito, and Gabe Dean starting Sunday as they make their final push to become Olympians. We're going to record the whole thing, and episodes will be released every day next week, starting Monday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Again, next Monday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, episode 1 of our video documentary series called Tokyo Dreams goes live.
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestle, because if you wrestle, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling. I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
If I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if it gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
Welcome to the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast, folks. Happy Friday. Today we are graced by the great Buddy Lee, wrestling Olympian, jump roping extraordinaire. This guy has made an entire career out of being a world-class jump roper, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear this episode. Fan of the week goes to my man Brian Luke. That's at Lukey_Skywalk on Twitter. We appreciate all of the support. Thank you very much. That's it, folks. Let's get to the interview with the great Buddy Lee. Peace! Buddy Lee the Flea, as we've heard from past podcasts. Welcome to the show, my friend.
How you doing, Ryan? Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Doing great. I'm so excited to talk to you. I was just talking off air. I purchased one of your jump ropes back at the 03 Tulsa Nationals, and I kept it with me for a long time. My brother had one too. It had a big impact on me. And man, when I look at this conversation, there's the businessman, there's the jump roping talent, then there's the Olympic wrestler. And so we're going to hit on all those buckets, but let's just go, let's go back to you. We're about a week out from the Olympic trials. When did you first catch the Olympic bug?
Wow. I would say I got the Olympic bug, after graduating from Old Dominion University, going into the US Marine Corps, hoorah. And I think after my third year or so, I think I won the national title, and I defeated Dylan Wasserman from Minnesota, University of Minnesota. And he was a returning Olympian, and I defeated him in the finals of the nationals at 8-2. And I say, wow, maybe I have a chance. And, I was a freestyler. I still, making the transition from college to international wrestling. I mean, I knew nothing about Greco, but I went on a Greco team. So I still thought I was going to be trying out for the Olympic trials for freestyle. But when I won the national title against Dylan Wasserman, I figured that, okay, I had a chance. And then in 88, I won the Olympic trials. We had the longest overtime wrestling match. Of course, they didn't want to see a freestyler beat a Greco guy, so they made sure I didn't win. So we went into a 19 minutes and 58 seconds overtime wrestling match that stood for about 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the bug.
Man,
And
we're
then-
going to talk about that 88 trials because it seems like a huge turning point in your life. But I just found it so fascinating that you went to ODU and were a freestyler before getting into Greco.
Yes. I mean, I was under legendary Billy Martin Jr. I came from the Grammar School of Wrestling. So, that system really didn't teach Greco-Roman moves. They studied all the legendary wrestlers like Stan Desick, Lloyd Keyser, and, different guys like that. And they kind of, taught those techniques in the wrestling camp, but never much in Greco until I saw Daryl Burley in Lehigh. He did a lot of the throws. Yes.
Respect to Daryl Burley, one of the 4-time finalists. Unbelievable talent.
Amazing talent.
Man, you go back to some of those brackets. I was looking back. I think it was what year were you 41-1? 80 or 82? Your sophomore year.
Sophomore year, yes.
Okay, so 80.
Still young guy. Yeah.
Man, you had a brutal bracket. Your first round match, the guy's name's escaping me now, but he was US Open champion. Then you beat Jim Gibbons in OT. I mean, my Lord, those were some fun brackets back then.
80, yeah. I can't recall that long, but I do recall beating Gibbons from Iowa State, right? He was a national champion.
Yeah.
Well,
the first round you had Billy Nugent, and then you beat Jim Gibbons. Yeah, but it's just loaded.
Yeah, loaded. And then, I mean, these guys from like the Big 8, Big 10 schools and stuff, I really never heard anything about them. I just took every match, one match at a time. And, of course, from, I think it was Eastern Regionals, I think it's pretty, I don't know how tough it was, but for me, it was very, very tough because I didn't really have the workout partners that I needed to be at that level to compete with these guys all the time. So I had to go up to train with 150 pounders in practice to just get a workout. And then after everybody left, I would stay 2 hours later. I couldn't get anybody to stay with me. And that's how I developed my jump rope stuff, training and conditioning. Well, I was introduced to the rope as a grasshopper at 14 years of age when I first discovered the greatest sport on the planet, wrestling, as a 9th grader, and saved my life, allowed me to go to college on a full wrestling scholarship. And I was introduced by a martial artist, and he taught me the 2 basic skills. And I spent 5 hours learning how to jump, being light on the balls of my feet. Didn't put that rope down after that. And then I became the school's first state champion and just kept that into my training every day. Anytime when I wrestle, I jump. I jump before and after practices and stuff. And took it to Old Dominion University. And it still was a very integral part of my wrestling. And then I just realized that this thing gave me advantages in speed, quickness, agility, explosive power, conditioning, weight loss, everything I needed to be the best wrestler I could be.
And man, you want to talk about something amazing. Watching your TikTok videos of you jumping, and even some of your videos from there's tons of them on YouTube. Absolutely amazing. We're going to get into that part of it. But I got to go back to this gentleman you just mentioned, he was your neighbor. He taught you first how to jump rope. And I heard this on the Back Points podcast, which that interview was awesome. Episode 17.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So go check that out. But you described this person as like the Bruce Lee of your neighborhood. Why did you use that word?
Well, everybody knows that. I don't think people really understand how the impact that Chinese people have on the Black community. First of all, we love Chinese people. I mean, Bruce Lee, to me, he was a god. And I had a poster of him on the on my wall, and I remember it was that picture of I think in Fist of Fury, where he has those claw marks on his chest. And Bruce Lee, man, I just did everything that I thought I could do to be a great athlete, and that's when I started 1,000 push-ups a night and stuff like that. But I was so blessed to have this guy next door to me named Mr. Rainey, and this guy's 4th degree black belt. And every day you see this guy running miles and miles, doing push-ups, lifting weights, breaking bricks, doing stretches and stuff. And one day I saw Mr. Rainey jumping rope. And this is the first time I've ever seen a guy jump rope before. So he was in the front yard doing some cool things with the ropes. And I went up to him, it was a true story. And I said, hey, Mr. Rainey. He looked at me, he said, yes, Grasshopper. I said, Mr. Rainey, can you show me how to jump? He said, sure, I'll show you how to jump, but you got to remember this. Buddy, you got to be light on the balls of your feet. And if you can hear your feet hit the floor, you're jumping too hard. He put this rope in my hand. It was like made of cloth, had little wooden handles, and he left. Ryan, I spent the next 5 hours trying to master the jump, being light on the balls of my feet. I was making mistakes. I was tripping over the rope. And I said, man, I'm going to get this thing down, because I knew that if I could master this jump rope, it can make me a better wrestler. And so I focused, concentrate on my breathing, stayed upright, pushing light on the balls of feet, jumping high enough to clear the rope. And after 5 hours, I mastered that skill and never put it down. And it became the key to my success in wrestling. Mr. Rainey, thank you.
Hey, that's an amazing story. And I just love hearing about, young kids who find someone to look up to, because, without the internet back in the day, or without, books or whatever, you were starved for sources of inspiration, and people who wrestled in the 80s talk about anytime they found a single article about Gable or whoever, they would just devour it because that's all they had. And so you had this like kind of mentor, quasi mentor living next door. And that obviously impacted the rest of your life. Let's just spend a second on this though. You talk about Bruce Lee. My dad says he was, just an idol to him, kind of like Muhammad Ali. Why was Bruce Lee so popular back then? Because I don't think people in my generation can appreciate it.
I think because, first of all, when I looked at Bruce Lee, I saw myself. It's like, man, I can be like that. He wasn't a big guy, and he had the same kind of body I had. And so I used to try to get those stomach muscles and all that other stuff. And I used to do 1,000 push-ups a night, in sets of hundreds. And oh yeah, that's, from like 13, started at 13 years of age and stuff. That became the foundation for my strength and conditioning. Push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, and jump rope. Because I had nothing. I was one of 6 kids. My mom raised 6 kids by herself. We didn't have much. So that was my weight training until I saved enough money to buy my first weight set. But I think Bruce Lee, because they did an amazing job. I believe because the Asians came to Hollywood and say, hey, if you're going to teach martial arts, this is the way you're going to have to do it. And it's just like going into the Black community. It's like, hey, you want to learn breakdancing? Okay, let the Black community show you how it's done. And it's the same thing with Asians. I think that they knew how to film and knew how to make it dramatic. And whatever he did, he inspired a lot of Black kids. And because of that, I just think the love for Asians and stuff like that was because of a guy like Bruce Lee. He was the first Chinese guy I ever saw. And I love Chinese. And so it's always my dream to meet a Chinese person. So when I got to go to China, I took Mr. Rainey with me when I went to China about 7 years ago, and we went to visit Bruce Lee, his monument and everything. So I took that guy as a trip, as a thank you to China, because I manufacture my ropes in China.
Full circle. And I got to tell you, the 10-year-old Chinese jump roper who set the world record for the fastest skips, I can't think of his name. I encountered him during my research. That is amazing. Like the amount of the generation of kids you've inspired. All over the world, kids are tagging you in videos though.
Yes. I had no idea. China, I was over there and the Chinese companies say, hey, can you be the ambassador for China for jump rope? So this company took me all around to China, and I went to the school of that kid and I did a jump rope performance for them. And I never experienced anything like it except for in Japan. But after I did a performance, I was attacked by the kids.
Crazy or what?
Yeah, they go crazy, just like you're some superstar. And I feel sorry for these guys that are movie stars or whatever. I know what it's like. I experienced that a few times, and it's like scary. And I was being attacked by little kids pulling on me. And I looked at the teacher and said, help me, somebody help me. I don't know what to do. They were little teeny things. And that kid was one of those kids. He was one of those kids. And then later on, he was using one of the ropes that this company manufactured, and he was using the ropes. And then they started showing me pictures of him that you came to his school, and I was his idol. And this kid now, he was like one of the fastest jumper on the planet, jumping as much as 7.2 revolutions per second. I don't know if you guys understand what that means, but go out and jump 30 seconds or 1 minute and see how many jumps you do in 1 minute and multiply that by 7 times 60. That's what gives you his number of jumps.
I wrote it down
7.2
here.
times 60.
108 skips in 30 seconds for the world record. Unbelievable.
100 and what?
108. It said 108. I don't know what like they're referring to. Maybe like ropes around the head in 30 seconds.
108. Then that's like 200. Not yeah. That's two. You multiply by 2. The
Okay.
jump rope community, they count 108. They count the right foot. But what they should do, because you got to communicate to the audience out there that 108 means times 2, and then you get 216 jumps in 30 seconds, and then you divide 30 seconds into 2008 and 208 and see how many jumps you get.
That's above my pay grade.
Yeah. So that's 7 times 3, almost 7 jumps per second. It's about 6 something.
Wow. So
yeah, it's amazing.
You're, I mean, in a sense, going back to China, and now you're an inspiration for all these kids, just like Bruce Lee was for you. It's such a crazy full circle to me.
Let me just start off. I want to say something. First, I want to congratulate the NCAA's, our wrestling family, our wrestling community. It's amazing brotherhood. You know, the sport has done so much for me in life as far as developing me as a man, and then the skills that I use outside of the sport. Congratulations to everybody that qualified for the NCAA's, which is a very serious task. Coaches, athletes, the champions of the NCAA's, and then the African Americans that, you know, I think there were 5. I mean, what amazing accomplishment, you know, because I mean, there were times where I just remember the Nate Carrs and Kenny Mundys and, you know, Lee Kemp and
Chris
Kevin
Campbell.
Jackson's, but yeah. Chris Campbell, he was after before my time, but still that's just a great accomplishment. And just to show that, you know, these young kids are seeing other Black role models in the sport. And we need to have more Black kids, Spanish kids, all kinds of kids in the sport, because this sport can make us great citizens, make us better people. And I believe that if we could get our whole nation, you know, wrestling just a little bit, like going to the military for 1 year, it'll do so much as far as developing the character, the mindset, the responsibility as a human being for human beings without really driving it in their heads. You already, you know, have this as part of who you are. And I just think it's a great sport.
Buddy Lee, we got to get you to Beat the Street Chicago, man. I'm involved with that organization. You would be just do incredibly well with that audience, man. You're just such a good speaker. Get me excited.
Ryan, I just like to say this. If you can't talk about your passion, because I used to study when I was a kid, but I learned how to talk about what it was that I love. And, you know, I think that when you get these guys that finish the sport, and when they think about the things they go through in life, you know, they can bring tears to their eyes, because if we didn't have a sport like this to teach us about the fact that life isn't fair, but the universe has put everything inside of you to be amazing and be great, and you can do anything. And, you know, this sport allows you to do that. And, you know, and it allows you to be one-on-one, and allows you, you know, to go back and prepare yourself the right way. Even if you lose, I don't think there's no such thing as a loss. I just think that it's a lesson to become greater. I just think it's a lesson. And I mean, we're just learning so much about life and learning about ourselves. What better sport than wrestling?
Right. Yeah. And when you talk about, you know, big impacts on your life, I have to think that the 88 trials was one of the biggest turning points in your life, in the sense of, you know, you didn't make the team, you refocused yourself, you rededicated yourself, and really went all in on Greco at that point. You know, when you think back to the 88 trials and how it influenced your life, what comes to mind?
Well, 88 Olympic trials, guys, I want to say first, it was a toss-off. I thought I was going freestyle Olympics. And then I decided last minute, say, okay, I'm going to go Greco, because I went to freestyle nationals a year before and I took 4th. And I said, well, I'm going to concentrate in Greco a little bit, and concentrate in Greco. And I won the pre-Olympic trials. And it's like, whoa, didn't expect to do that, because Dylan Wasserman was serious Olympian and Greco guy. Then I was number one going in. And then, of course, Ike Anderson won the mini tournament. And then there were some things that happened in the finals that were controversial and still didn't leave a good taste in my mouth. And I had an official come into my locker room and tell me some things that was going to go down against me and stuff. And I didn't really understand it. But I didn't make the Olympic team, but I was Olympic team first alternate. So I got a flag say Olympic team first alternate. So I feel like I still was on the Olympic team. But it was a turning point because I had said that I'm not going to deal with this racism stuff anymore. And I'm finished with the sport. And then I had a gentleman come into the locker room and saw how down I was. And he was, he liked me as a person. He was affiliated with Old Dominion. I think his name was Steve Brown. And he just talked to him and gave me some encouraging words because I didn't have much of a support system back then. And it was enough. He said the right things that motivate me to recommit and fight for my dream. And my message to you wrestlers, never, ever let anyone take your dream away. The only person who can take your dream away is you. And so I made that commitment and say, hey, I'm going to get to know these officials so they can know what kind of person I am. I'm going to learn Greco-Roman and learn it better. And from 88 to 92, that was part of the journey and mission. And I did real well on the international level. I almost made the finals of the World Championships, should have been in there, took top 4 in the world right before the Olympic Games. Won a national title, beat Ike, beat him one time in those 4 years. And then we didn't see each other again until 92.
It's just wrestling. You always find these connections. It's just like the fact that you wrestled him again in 92 is so crazy to me. And so folks who aren't super close to the story, in 88, you wrestled Ike in the trials. In the second match, it was like somehow they hit you for stalling in overtime. And that's how it was decided. So I can't even remember, Ryan. I didn't even remember. I never looked at the match. I never seen the match after that. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. If you can send that to me, because I never watched any of my wrestling matches since I left wrestling. Just maybe a couple just recently because of Dr. Dave Bennett. But yeah, I never watched my matches. Yeah, it was an odd way for a match to end. And I was there in 04 when that Greco match probably surpassed that one, but it did end with a score. But so in 88, your dreams are crushed. You don't have much of a support system. This guy comes into your locker room. Was that like the day of the tournament or weeks after?
Oh no, right. No, the locker room at the Olympic trials. At the Olympic trials, where I think it was in Florida, maybe. He came in to talk to me afterwards because I was down. And they threw my coach out of the corner because he protested the calls and stuff like that. And they threw him out of the corner. And he wasn't really, he was just a coach. He didn't really, he wasn't really that knowledgeable about Greco in terms of really being a Greco guy. He was just a great coach as far as motivating us. And they threw him out of the corner. So I had nobody. And, but anyway, hey, let me just say this, man. All these things makes you who you are today. And I think they're responsible for the great things that happen to you in your life. And you got to have setbacks because setback is an opportunity to come back 3 times stronger. And that's what I did. I became Olympian because of that. And I had to have a lesson like that to define what it is that you have inside. So every wrestler, and whether you lost the nationals, second, third, or fourth, no, man, you didn't lose. This is so much knowledge in the decision, so much knowledge about yourself or what you got to do better, how you prepare. And for the next 4 years, that's what I had to do. Prepare myself, become smarter, and just watching films of Ike and who beat him and how did I beat him in matches before or guys that have defeated him. And in 92, it was all me. Man. I did the best 2 out of 3, 2-0. 2-0. How do you beat a guy that you've been wrestling against maybe like 10 times? How do you defeat him? And he's got one of the best coaches in the country, Joe DeMayo, who's the late Joe DeMayo. Great guy, great coach, had great wrestlers, Sean Sheldon, the 49-pounder, Ike Anderson, and just on up the weight, just a great coach. Well coached. And how do you beat this guy? And you're your own coach. Nobody's coached me. My own coach. I'm studying videos of Russians and other athletes to learn Greco, and putting things together when it really matters. And I tell you, that's what wrestling is for me, is fighting with everything inside of you to make your dream come true. And at the end of the day, you can say, I did it, and I did it my way, and I succeeded.
And to make that dream come true for you, hit us with your workout regimen in those years leading up to 92. What did a day in the life look like for you?
Okay, guys, this is what happens when you don't really have a coach and you don't have anybody to stand back. US Marine Corps, our job is to wrestle. So our job is, I think it's 6-hour day, 7-hour day of wrestling. When these guys left practice, I trained another 5 hours by myself. And that's where the jump rope came in, 3 hours of jumping, running, miles, doing the calisthenics, lifting weights. So I trained anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a day for the next 4 years to become an Olympian. And so the mindset is you eat, you sleep, you drink your passion, your mission, your goal. You eat, you sleep, you drink. It's like meditation. It's focus. This is what commitment is. It's like life or death. I hate to say it, but it's life and death because it means that much to you. And these are the things that are necessary for, going to the next level. And when you don't have, a coach telling you what you're doing right or wrong, or somebody looking at your wrestling, when you're not in that environment where you got great coaching or technicians or, guys that can push you, you have to do these extra things. But yes, I had a great team because we're 5-time national champions. And I never trained with my 36 pounders. I always trained with 49 pounders and 63. So my workout partners were 49 pounders and they were like top 1, 2, and 3 in the country.
Wow.
So 12 hours a day.
And then what sticks out to me is your enthusiasm and passions for whatever you're focused on at the time. Back then it was wrestling. Now it's your business and jumping. But were there ever days where you woke up and didn't feel the motivation to train? And if so, how did you get over that?
Ryan, that's life, man. Let me tell you something, guys out there. I wrestled to become an Olympian so that I could do what I really love. And that's share a jump rope to the world, to teach people through the power of a jump rope that they too are champions in life. You can't show everybody how to wrestle, but when I jumped rope, people got excited and they wanted to learn how to jump or how to do this. And I felt like, wow, man, this is my way to reach people. So my motivation was, how do I impact people's lives? And I found it with the jump rope. I don't know if I answered your question.
But you essentially wanted, your motivation though was, hey, Olympics are a vehicle for me to, get some recognition so that I can then teach folks.
Yeah, wrestling for me was an opportunity that I had to stay committed because I was in the Marine Corps and I had to stay committed. So I signed up for another 4 years and went to 93 before I retired. And I believed that I needed to get a PhD in sports, and Olympian status was a PhD so that I could have an impact on people's lives. So my dream was to make the transition from wrestling to jump rope and change the world with jump rope. And I had no idea how I was going to do it. But while I was in the Marine Corps, I was already getting jobs and doing commercials and stuff like that and doing performances, because of what Gene Mills did for me one day. Thanks, Gene.
What's that?
Real quick. Back in 80s, so long ago, Ryan, you're making me feel old. But Gene Mills and a lot of wrestlers was at the Olympic Training Center and was training. They had the freestylers and Greco-Roman guys together. So it was like great family. And all the wrestlers, they loved my jump rope. So Gene Mills and them, they went out to a club or something. They talked to the manager and say, hey, there's a dance contest. Hey, can a guy come in and jump rope as part of the dance? And the manager said yes. So they all came back to the Olympic Training Center and say, buddy, we're going out to a club on Thursday, man. We want you to come out and do the jump rope as a dance contest. And they're going to be paying like $100. And I say, okay. So we got about like 30, 40 wrestlers. And we went out to the club and I did my mime stuff with the jump rope and stuff and got in and did the mime thing and then jump rope and won the contest. Split the money with Gene. Next day, the US OC did a press release ABC, CBS came in the following day. They did a live thing on me across the nation. And next thing you know, my phone started ringing across the nation. I was flying to Japan like a month or so later to do the first international commercial for like $40,000, crazy stuff. And it's never stopped, Ryan. That was 1985, 86. The phones have never stopped ringing. And that was the turning point of my jump rope career. Thanks, Gene Mills.
Man, that's a great story. What was it like the first time you went to Japan on that trip?
Wow. Like a fairy tale. Never seen anything like it. Japanese, o genki desu ka. Amazing experience. I mean, things are small, so efficient. Millions of people in Tokyo, Japan. Everything's so efficient. People nice. Policemen walking around with no guns. Kids playing in stores by themselves. They didn't need parental guidance or anything. They treated me like a king. It was just one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had going to a foreign country.
Wow.
Love the Japanese. Love the Japanese.
And so this jump rope routine, I'm sure you've had a number of them over the years, but if you watch, 5 to 6 of your videos on YouTube, you see certain techniques are repeated. Do you have like a regime in your head, like a gymnast would when you're doing it? Or is this just all kind of like free soloing as you're going, freestyling as you're going?
Thanks to the Grammy School of Wrestling, having the privilege of coming under that system, the Martins and their kids, and these guys are all scientific and very, very super intelligent guys and stuff. And they created an amazing system that changed, so many wrestlers' lives and stuff. And that system, having the privilege to be, studying under that system, it taught me a methodology of how to break things down. And I use that methodology in the way I teach jump rope to the whole world now. And what that is that you want to be great at something, you got to do it not 10 times, not 100 times, 100,000 times. So all the things that you see me doing, and you see me doing stuff, excuse me, my cauliflower ears, these things don't stand. You see me rehearsing something that I've done 1,000 times and making that mind-body connection. And it's the same thing with wrestling. We have to do it hundreds of thousands of times so you can do it blindfolded. It becomes like a reflex. So most of these routines you see me doing, this is the way I train. And I can do things outside of it, but I train these moves over and over so that, one, they becomes automatic, like a reflex, and they prevent injury.
Yeah.
Because my body's familiar with what's going to happen. So that's why when you see me moving real fast, everything is in control. So I jump rope the way I wrestle. In order for this to have application to my sport, I jump the way I wanted to wrestle. So I train with high intensity. And this is the way I train the world. And this is how I train world-class athletes from grassroots to the elite level.
I love that
train
video.
the way you want to move.
Yeah, well, that point, you said that in that video with the Black Zillions when you're down there with them. You're like, you need to jump how you fight. And I'm like, that's an interesting concept, because once you start to look at some of your routines, you see more wrestling movements in there. And maybe like when you turn, I'm seeing maybe like an arm spin. And so, it's cool to have that philosophy applied to something as simple as jumping rope.
That's right. Well, when you think about jumping is on the balls of the feet and movement and making low jumps and just the contact with the surface short and quick. And when you think about movements from John Smith and those guys, they're moving quick. You can't move quick, picking your feet up real high. It's got to be pushing off lateral movement, start, horizontal movement and stuff. And just having the privilege of working with the Black Zillions, a big shout out to our Olympic gold medalist, Kenny Mundy. He brought me down there, introduced me to the team, and I got the opportunity to work with Anthony Johnson, Rashad Evans, Vitor Belfort, and what's that other guy, Kamaru or whatever, I forget his name, the one that's the champion now. So I got to work with all these guys and talk to them. So it's great opportunity to work with MMA fighters, which were former wrestlers.
Well, I got to tell you, just watching that and knowing the energy you bring when you're teaching a room full of, killers, essentially, these guys are just the highest level. You came in there and the energy and like the confidence you carry in your teaching, it's different than when you do it for the school. And so I love how you're able to adapt based on the room you're in. And it's like the energy is Buddy Lee, but I also see some some military style coming back, and you're pretty strict with it. I mean, does that all come from that Grammy system and that summer you spent there?
I think, this is where I feel, Ryan. I think our sport is the military because wrestlers excel in the military. When they go into the military, they're not just regular people, they are elite. That's why you see some of the people that served in our government, they were former wrestlers. But when I coach, the way that you have an impact on an athlete is that you have to be like that athlete. You have to be the athlete as well. So coming from a combative sport like wrestling, these guys, we're part of the same family. I understand what their struggles are, what they have to go through. So when you're talking to these guys, you have to talk their language. That's how you make a connection with an athlete. Talk their language. Don't talk about jogging. Our sport is not about jogging. It's about sprinting. And now they talk about sprinting for 25 minutes, which is a whole nother level. So, I mean, you can't be jogging and turning the rope slow and think that athletes are going to get benefits from that. You train the energy system that you're going to be using. You train with the movements that you use in your sport. So wrestling is being in balls of the feet. It's the jump rope strengthens the ankles, the knees, this gripping strength, the reflexes, the ability to move from left to right, hand speed, foot speed, and then conditioning. And most importantly, concentration, because it's a multi-joint movement that incorporates so many movements at one time that you got to be so focused and concentrated. And tell me if that's not the same type of attitude you got to have when it comes to wrestling. So focused and concentrated.
Right. It's so true. And when you break it down like that, when you're giving like a performance in front of, 2,000 people, you don't want to trip and have the rope skip on you and have to restart, so that focus, I'm sure, carries right over. When did you go from just a world-class jump roper traveling the world to a businessman and starting your own jump rope?
Well, I think that it happened before I got out of the Marine Corps. 92, when I competed in 92 games and stuff like that, I had actually bone chips, like broken arm. I had some serious problem with the arm, but I had just beat the Olympic champion 2 weeks before. And then I knew that jump rope was going to be my career. I remember Jerry Cheney from Virginia Tech, before he talked to the brands, he asked me to come on as a head coach for Virginia Tech. I said, thank you, coach, but I'm going to pursue my jump rope dream. And before I got into the Marine Corps, I think I did something for a company and I made like $40,000 for 1 month's work. And I said, oh man, I can do this for a living. And I never looked back, Ryan. I started my company. What's his name? I'm sorry, his name, Carl Adams. Carl Adams gave me a book on business. I knew nothing about business. I got my degree in teaching, secondary education. I was an artist, and he gave me a book. And that book was a business book, and it showed me how to jumpstart my business. And that was a jumpstart. And I jump-started by sending a mail order to all of the wrestling coaches in the country, something from Coach's Corner or something like that. And then I say, hey, get your Buddy Lee jump ropes, and all you got to do is send in the purchase order. And we had a fax back then. And Ryan, that fax machine just was something like a slot machine. Faxes just started rolling in. I could not believe it. And it jump-started my business. And that was the beginning of it. And I never did any marketing since then. And now I have to do marketing because of the new era of digital marketing. So that's, that was the beginning. And that's when I knew that I had something, because of the fact that people love jump rope and they kept calling it the Buddy Lee jump rope. I was trying to call it the Magic Speed. We want the Buddy Lee jump rope. And then it's when I got discovered by 96. I did a speech before President Bill Clinton coming back for the 96 Olympic trials. They elected me to do the speech before Bill Clinton with the champion's wife on behalf of all the Olympians. And then I got a standing ovation on TV. And then Olympic Training Center brought me back in and say, hey, anybody that can impress the president like you did is our guy. What do you want to do with the Olympics? I said, I want to become an Olympic jump rope condition coach. And they brought in sports science, and they made me the official jump rope condition coach for the Olympic teams. And then that's what's the turning point of my jump rope crusade.
And when did you come up with the idea for the bearing of the jump rope on the outside? Because anyone who's used your ropes know that there's a tremendous difference in just the efficacy at which it moves.
Thank you, Ryan. It's a great question. Well, guys, that's called the swivel-bearing technology. And these ropes you see, like cross ropes and all these, and RX Smart Gear, that is my technology. We are the inventors. Myself and Paul Fisher, we invented that technology working with some kids that was part of our club. And we came up with that technology to basically help kids to jump faster. And we got it patented in 1997. And then in 2000, it was discovered. And then we flew to Japan and we sold about 2 million jump ropes in 1 year. And then that technology, they licensed the rope and started a craze. And then from there, we became the official jump rope for the Olympic teams. And then it became with the Olympic rings. And then we sold ropes from there. Then we became the official CrossFit course, the official US, Drug Enforcement Administration course. Then we became Michelle Obama's, spokesperson for fitness. And then the jump rope became the official rope, and it goes on and it hasn't stopped.
And you've even performed in front of the great Muhammad Ali. How did that experience come about?
Well, a big shout out to the amazing Chris Campbell, I think a bronze medalist and lawyer. He became the CEO for USA Boxing because USA Boxing was having all their problems with embezzlement or whatever they was having. So they sent Chris Campbell in there. And me and Chris, we sat on the board of USA Wrestling for the Athletes Advisory Committee, something like that. And he became the CEO and then just say, hey, buddy, we got the Muhammad Ali coming up, man. And I want to have you come in and do the performance before Muhammad Ali. Brian, let me tell you something, brother. That was an amazing experience. Let me tell you something. I met a lot of great people. You can name presidents, all kinds of people, Arnold Schwarzenegger, all kinds of people. But meeting Muhammad Ali and performing for him and in front of 27 countries with, in front of Mike Tyson, Holyfield, all these great boxers. And they flew me in, and the boxing community already knew me because I did the Everlast Championships. And I performed. They took me in the ring. 2 guards took me in the ring, and I performed before everybody. And I guess, I got a big ovation. And then Muhammad Ali told the guards, go get this guy. I want to meet him. And they escorted me down to meet Muhammad Ali. I say, hi, Muhammad Ali. He looked like my dad. He reminded me of my dad. He said, and he pulled me to him and said, how do you jump so like this, man? You're the greatest jumper I've ever seen, young man. I say, Muhammad, can I be your jumper? Can I be your jumper? I didn't want to sound so excited like a kid. He said, I want you to have dinner with me and my family tonight. And I had dinner with Muhammad Ali and his family that night. Can you imagine the experience? And let me tell you guys, I've never been so impressed with somebody. This man, he had the, what do you call it, Parkinson's. And he would give everybody an autograph, and he wouldn't leave until everybody got an autograph. And everybody, as he walks through the crowd, he makes eye contact with everybody. He is just an amazing person, man. He was an ambassador of just goodwill and, standing for human rights. And he was just an amazing person, man. Just to have the experience of being the presence and having that opportunity. I think Chris Campbell, and that was like a highlight of one of my career. One of the highlights, performing for this god of a man.
That's incredible. So tell me, let's deep dive on that event. So knowing that you're going to have to perform in front of the great Muhammad Ali, what's your self-talk and what's your mindset 10 minutes before you go out there?
I believe that when you've done something 100,000 times, it is a part of you. Mindset is you do what you know best and you stay true to the routine. You don't go outside of it. You stay to your game plan, just like a fight. You stay to the game plan. And then, I think I may have checked the surface because there's always things that can affect the outcome. And so that's why you got to kind of like do some scouting to understand the environment, the surface, what the atmosphere is going to be like. because that can affect your performance. And especially when you got some, prestigious, some amazing people watching you, that can also affect your performance. But when it comes to performing, it's just me and a rope. We become one. We don't see anybody. We're doing what it is that we love. And I've done it over 100,000, 1,000,000 times. Ryan, I can do it with my eyes closed. I'm living my dream. When you have a chance to live your dream and you get called for that, the question is, when you finally get what you've been asking for, are you ready for it? And I was ready for it.
And don't you just feel like once you start doing that, living your dream, that like the seas of life just part for you, like things open up for you because you're living out your destiny?
Yes. And, let me say, when you're living out your destiny and things are happening for you, it requires even more concentration, focus. The struggle of staying on top, is 3 times more, to getting to the top. The struggle of striving for the top, it takes pretty much 3 times more concentration to stay on top. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is that in life, you have to be focused always, because you can always get knocked down. And so that requires discipline. That requires being surrounded by the right kind of people and being humble and always asking a little more of yourself. And I think also having a great relationship with God. So as people, we're always trying to stay in balance, keeping all those things in balance so that you can continue to have success and do the right things to be better.
Love it. Let's wind down with 3 questions I've sourced from some friends of mine who all very familiar with you. First question is, what's your fondest memory of the 1992 Olympic Village?
Wow. Man, I wasn't even thinking about wrestling. Can you imagine meeting Magic Johnson, Carl Lewis, seeing Michael Jordan, all these NBA stars that you only see on television, that they're not real, and they're hanging out with you. Just the fact that you get to meet every sport and it's one big family, that's the greatest memory. And then I would think about the food place where we had food. We went down to escalators down into like a shopping center, and every food you can think of, they had it available to us 24/7. And I thought that, man, if they can come together for the Olympics and have this much food, we can wipe out hunger. That's the thing that came to my mind.
Wow. And knowing that wrestling's late in the Olympics too. So could you indulge early on?
No, you just have to be patient. You have to watch your weight. And the other thing that I remember is that really made a big impact on me is, if you're talking about the environment, is that when you left the village, you were like a super celebrity. You would be bombarded by people. If you had an Olympic badge on, that was it. And then, of course, the competition itself, they're the same guys that you see in the World Championship, same guys. And it's like, man, they had me being either number 2, number 3 after I beat the world champion, the Olympic gold medalist 2 weeks before. I could have won it. But man, you got to be perfect. You got to be perfect when the rest of the world is watching.
Yep. Next question. I wanted you to tell me this just so I can get some motivation to get my jump rope routine back on. Hit us with a couple stats on like 10 minutes of jump roping equals how much swimming or how much running, because it's so efficient.
Well, guys, real quick, when I was wrestling at the Olympic Training Center, in between the breaks, before we had to practice, we had 2 practices a day. In between the breaks, I used to go to the USOC's library and I researched everything there was about jump rope. And that's how I became an authority, learning about its application to every sport. And according to research, when this amazing exercise was broken down and analyzed, they found out that if you could sustain 10 minutes of jumping at a jump rope pace of 2 revolutions per second or 120 revolutions per minute, it could provide the same cardiovascular benefits as 30 minutes of jogging, 2 sets of tennis, 30 minutes of racquetball playing, 18 holes of golf, 12 minutes of swimming, I don't know the comparison to wrestling because I don't think anything compares to our sport. But for the most part, that's one of the studies that were done. But that study is kind of outdated. So I think that when you start jumping and you start doing high steps, crossing your arms, then you burn even more calories. So I think you can't measure that. So it's a very efficient exercise, one of the most efficient ways of burning calories, because it's a total body movement that incorporates every muscle from head to toe.
Yeah. And it's so, I live in Chicago in an apartment, it's not big, it's super small. So you can take it anywhere, and it's not that expensive. So it's accessible to everyone. And buddy, I just want to say thank you for being patient with your headphones. Your cauliflower ears have not been good to you during this.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I hope you guys didn't get distracted, but
no,
I
you can't hear it.
Whether the other head, the earphones are these. I thought these would stand, but
for the folks listening, Buddy's earbuds have fallen out about 15 times, and he hasn't made a sound about it, hasn't made a word about it. He's just pushed on through, so we appreciate that. Last question for you, sir. This podcast is called Wrestling Changed My Life podcast. So the question to you, Buddy Lee, is how has wrestling changed your life?
Wow. I'm still wrestling in life, guys. It doesn't stop. Wrestling gives us the necessary tools to be able to survive this thing called life. Life is a journey when you finish this sport. And trust me, you're going to call on everything that you learn in this amazing sport. You will call on those life skills to get through in this thing called life. Whether you're in relationships, whether you're in business, it doesn't make a difference. You use your wrestling skills. And how did this thing change my life? I've been knocked down a few times. And man, let me tell you something. I don't believe there's anything, such thing as a loss. I believe it's a lesson, knowledge to become better. And so I'm fighting even harder to be even a better person. I still have dreams of being the best jump rope on the planet. My dream now is that I believe that I can sell 1 billion jump ropes. If I had it my way, wrestlers, I would give everybody a free jump rope, but I'm not that rich yet, like Bill Gates. But I tell you what, I will offer all our wrestlers discounts. And if you call me up and stuff, we're gonna leave a discount code for this podcast, JRope10. And Ram, I'm gonna make sure you get your up-to-date Buddy Lee jump rope for having me on your show. But for the most part,
thank you.
This is truly the greatest sport on the planet. Just like jump rope, it's the greatest exercise on the planet. Jump rope and wrestling, they go hand in hand, feet in feet. Ask John Smith, ask some of the great wrestlers. They'll tell you, Bruce Baumgartner, all the great wrestlers from lightweights to heavyweight. This is your best training partner, your best friend. And let me tell you, you think you're wrestling? No, you're not wrestling. You guys are wrestling to become the next leaders of our society. We're going to need you in our society. And this is what this sport is teaching you, mindset. When you go out there and you start looking for a job, there's going to be no one who can compete with you. They don't have your mindset. They don't know what it's like to be a wrestler, to starve, and basically go against a guy that's supposed to be better than you and you end up beating them. Most people, they end up giving up. So what we do, we push beyond the barrier. And that's what life is. Reach your potential as a human being. And you're going to take that mindset to business and whatever else you do, and you're going to promote the sport, because at the end of the day, people are going to hear that, wow, man, that guy used to be a wrestler. And that's how we promote our sport, by excelling in every arena in this society and becoming future leaders. So you know what? I'm still wrestling in life, man. I'm getting knocked down sometimes. I'm coming back 3 times harder. I come back with a new game plan.
Man, Buddy Lee, you got me fired up, man. Let's go.
That's what this show is about, man. This show is about the bringing the past with the present and the future, man. And tell us, man, that we are grateful. We should be honored. This sport is a gift, because how can you learn so much about the self, man? This is a one-on-one sport. No team, just you and the other person. But it's not about, you being better than anybody, man. You're just learning about how to be your best and reach your potential as a human being. And that's what you want in this life. and learning about balance, mind, body, and spirit working together as one. That's my message.
That's it for this episode of Wrestling Changed My Life. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. As always, thank you to our sponsor, Spartan Combat. They're hosting a national tournament in Jacksonville, Florida, May 20th through the 23rd. You can register now at SpartanCombat.com. To watch the video interview of this episode, go to Wrestling Changed My Life on YouTube. You can also see the clips on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling Changed My Life. That's it, folks. We'll see you next time.